but we thought we had a deal numerous times. I'd get home, I'd say, First Lady, I had the most wonderful talk with Vladimir. I think we're finished. And then I'll turn on the television, or she'll say to me one time, wow, that's strange because they just bombed a nursing home. I said, what?
Well, I had no idea Donald Trump was doing stand-up now. This is news to me. James Mennie is on the line. Jim, did you know?
No, and it actually does sound like he's warming up for, like, Jimmy Kimmel or something, although that's never going to happen. But, yeah, it is a comedy of sorts, however, because here's Donald Trump, who had a terrible, terrible weekend. He is, how can I put it, he is between a rock and an Epstein, so to speak. And the Epstein files are now apparently don't exist. He had to take a huge post on Truth Social to tell his followers to stop talking about the Epstein files, even though he's been talking them up for years and his followers have been talking them up for years. So he needs a distraction. So what does he do? He pulls out yet another selection of tariffs with another bozo deadline, which, of course, probably won't happen. But in the meantime, we'll be talking about this for the next 2 or 3 days until, of course, he does something else or something else controversial, and we'll all stop talking about it. But the bottom line is, I mean, it's probably good news for Canada because the focus will shift to another part of the world, which is being faced with Donald Trump's empty threats. But remember, they don't call him President Taco for nothing. Trump always chickens out, and we're going to see that again here. But the bottom line is you really have to wonder at this point whether he does actually know what's going on around him, because it's clear. It is clear even when he made this announcement that people weren't taking it seriously. And the whole idea, like, and I heard your guest on, your analyst that you had on there, is like, where's the 50 days come from? What is that? Unless, of course, he saw, well, 50% tariffs, I'll make it 50 days. We'll do it that way. The guy's in real trouble. He is trying to pretend that he's still in charge. He's clearly just pushing any button on the control panel, wondering what it does. And we can only hope that in the end, his entourage will reach some kind of an honorable deal with this country in terms of trade, although I really hope, Aaron, that we don't make the same mistake. We don't, heave a sigh of relief. Okay, let's go back to the way things were. Let's not ever go back to the way things were, because Donald Trump, I think, was the first in a series. We've seen what the level of acceptance on the American electorate is for people who, how can I put it, don't know what they're doing. And this could just as easily happen again in the next term or the term after. So if we've learned our lessons, it might be a bit tough to start. But if we diversify our markets, if we diversify our trading partners, and if we stop looking at the U.S. as this kind of inevitable neighbor, who knows? Things may work out for the best for this country.
Jim, to your point, it's funny. So I had Jean Charest on the weekend, right? I talked to Friday morning, and I said to him at one point, there's a theory some people have that the Canadian government is just waiting this one out. In other words, let it go back and forth because they realize this is Trump's last term. He's not going to run again. He's not going to revise the Constitution to allow for yet another term. And then I said to you what you just said. I said, and it can't get any worse if that's the thinking. To which his answer was, oh no, it could get worse.
Well, yeah. I mean, whether it's him or somebody else, like I say, the entire nature of the game has changed now. Even we used to look at George W. as being a bit, off the beaten track. He's a statesman.
Yeah.
He's a genius compared to what's been rambling around the White House recently. And the bottom line here is we cannot rely on the good faith, the good judgment, or the good intentions of the United States of America. They simply no longer exist. And the sooner we come to terms with that, I think the better we're all going to be.
All right, let me get to the story locally. Of course, we've been talking about that, and it's going to be the lead story in the news tonight as well. Yet again, I love your headline, which is, whenever the heavens open, Montreal and Quebec become flooded with excuses. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, if I was working for Tourism Montreal right now, my theme would be, I mean, if I want to make lemonade out of all these lemons, my theme would be Montreal, where it rains, it floods. And it always floods. It always floods in Montreal. It's been flooding for years. People, even now on Facebook and social media, they're dredging up the inevitable pictures back from '89 with the big deluge and when the Kerry flooded and the fire department had to put the ladders down. It's normal for us, except that it isn't normal. When I don't know where you were when the rains came down on Sunday, but I was just sitting in my dining room looking out at my back deck, And the thing is, I've been, I live in Quebec, and I know what the weather's like here, and I am programmed to expect that rain like that, when it comes down with that intensity, it's going to be over in about 10, 15 minutes. It lasted for nearly an hour, Aaron. And I got to tell you, I was getting a little bit worried, but at the end of it, my street outside my house, it was running. It was like a stream, but then everything drained. Nothing drains in Montreal. And what is incredible about what we're hearing, I heard the Plante, Madame Plante, and her entourage suggest, well, it's going to be years before we get our drainage system up to scratch. So in the meantime, it's incumbent on you to take better care of your house, to take all the measures. You know what? Here's my measure. I'll put my house up for sale and go work go live in a city that works, because that's the problem. Over and over and over again. And as nice as it would be, as easy as it would be to say, oh, it's Valérie Plante's fault. It's Valérie Plante and Projet Montréal and their bicycle paths, and you can't park and you can't. Listen, you couldn't find a parking spot when Gérald Tremblay was the mayor. And he was the mayor between 2001 and 2012. You certainly couldn't find a parking spot when Denis Coderre was the mayor.
You couldn't?
Valérie Plante did not level a curse on this city. This city has been circling the drain for quite some time now. And I got to tell you, Deb in the Gaspé, who sent you that last text, okay, saying like Montrealers are just living in the past. You're asking people what they do if they were mayor of Montreal. You know what I do, Aaron? Do you remember in Moonstruck when Sheriff just hauled off and slapped Nicolas Cage across the face and said, snap out of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay? Snap out of it, Montreal. You're not a world-class city, and you haven't been one for years. You're barely a regional capital. It takes you 104 councillors to make up your minds to do nothing or to have another study, which is why nothing ever gets the hell done on the island of Montreal, okay? It is sad, because the real story here isn't that, people are calling up Aaron Rand and saying we should do this and this and this. People aren't calling up Aaron Rand. They're leaving. They're doing what I did, because if anyone is listening right now saying, yeah, well, you don't like it, why don't you get the hell out? I did. I lived in Montreal for more than 30 years, and I couldn't take it. I got fed up of living in a city where nothing works for more than 2 days at a time. I moved across the river. Everything works. And even though I was concerned about the duration of the rains yesterday, I knew things were going to work, and they did. But it was like Groundhog Day, covering the damage to Montreal, covering the same streets that got hit, hearing the same excuses from the municipal officials. And like I say, I want to be fair here, not just from the Plante administration. We've been hearing these crap, 78 RPM records since the Tremblay administration. Nothing has changed, okay? And if things are going to change, it'll only change when Montrealers turn around and say enough. They don't vote for the person who isn't the person they hate. They vote for the person who's going to do more for their city. I hope they make that decision. I hope they go into that exercise in the coming municipal election. But the fact of the matter is, if this city is going to get better, it's not going to be because of any mayoral candidate. It's going to be because of Montrealers raising their standards and insisting that whoever they place in charge, whoever they entrust their city to, is going to leave it better than they found it. And that cannot be said of any mayor who's served, my God, in the past 35 years.
You're making it sound like Jean Drapeau is the best mayor we ever had.
Well, he got away with a lot, too, because it was all the glory and the bread and circuses. But in the end, the waiter comes with the bill, right? In the end, the waiter certainly came with the bill for the Olympics. And after the Olympics fiasco, Montreal was essentially under trusteeship and all but named by the provincial government.
Yeah.
They would never let them touch huge amounts of money again. And it's only until, and even now, the province really looks at Montreal with a very, very jaundiced eye. But I got to tell you, Aaron, and it's not naive to say, until Montrealers insist that their city reach a certain standard of performance, of basic performance. I'm not talking about major projects or some cyclist paradise or some driver's paradise. Make things work, and make them work on a regular basis. Until you do that, you're going to keep losing tens of thousands of taxpayers every year, as Montreal has been for decades. And until that changes, the only way we're going is down.
I just want to ask one thing. We're kind of out of time, but this idea that, and I'm not going to harp on the idea that there was less parking or whatever during Gerald Tremblay. I don't necessarily agree with that because we didn't have this many bike lanes taking away parking spots. But regardless, you've laid out the problem. Where's the solution here? Even with whoever's running for mayor, whether it's Soraya Martinez, Ferrata, whatever, isn't the crux of the issue here? Government is too big, as you said. It takes 100 people. How's that going to change?
Well, there has to be a will on the part of Montrealers or on a party. There has to be a party that turns around and says, we will lobby Quebec to change. And remember, it's funny you're mentioning Jean Charest, because this entire system, this bloated, inefficient, useless system of municipal governance that we have comes from the Charest government. This is what we got in exchange for getting rid of forced mergers, okay? But we've got this huge arc full of, arguing species. No. If the city of New York can get by with 44 councillors, I think the city of Montreal can get by with less than 104. Okay? And the bottom line here is there has got to be some real reform, but there also has to be a desire on the part of Montrealers to have their administrations grow up. I don't care. I mean, in their defense, Projet Montréal never pretended to be anything other than a bike lane crazy bunch of dogmatists.
You're right.
They have lived up to their reputations, okay? I want to hear from a mayoral candidate who's going to turn around and explain not to make Montreal a world-class city, to make Montreal a place where, as Ms. Ferrandis said, people feel pride in their city. People do not feel pride in this version of Montreal. Believe me, I've seen that pride dissipate over the past 30 years. It's sad to see, but there's very explainable reasons for it. Until those reasons change, you're going to see more and more people just turn their backs on what should be one of the best cities in the country.
James Mennie at the Montreal Gazette. Thank you, Jim.
Matt.